Coming back to Nigeria, where the year 2020 is one in which the world will not forget in a hurry. And Nigeria is not an exception in the financial market sector. The Fmdq group is already counting its milestones for the year, including issuers and member firms whose activities are outstanding despite the nail-biting 2020. Joining me now on the program is KAODI UGOJI, the Group Chief Operating Officer at Fmdq. Good evening, madam, and great to have you on the show tonight.
Good evening, Boston. Thanks to be on.
Thank you very much. Give us a sense of how the year 2020 has panned out so far for Fmdq in terms of growth in your market turnover, the size, and the listed issuers.
Boston, as you know, 2020 has been a very interesting year globally, and Fmdq wasn't left out of it. But I think one of the things that we have seen about the Nigerian financial markets is that it displayed some resilience, and that can be attributed to the hard work and the innovations from the market participants. So first of all, I would like to say very well done to all the market participants, to the regulators who have held this market together despite the very tough times that we have seen. 2020, again, has also been a very interesting year for Fmdq because in January, we migrated and became a holding company. We moved from a securities exchange with a clearinghouse subsidiary to a capital market holding company with 5 subsidiaries. So we now have Fmdq Exchange, which the market is familiar with. We have Fmdq Clear, which just recently received the approval in principle from the SEC to become a central counterparty. So that's a big deal. We have Fmdq Depository, which was launched onto the markets last year to deal with the settlement and depository side of things. And we have also recently launched Fmdq Private Markets, which is to encourage private markets to tap into the capital market. So that's where Fmdq started from this year. But we've seen a lot of changes in the market this year. And even though this was more recent, I would like to start with the presidential assent of CAMA 2020. We all know that CAMA was, the existing CAMA was 1990, last viewed in 1990. So 30 years down the line, we have CAMA 2020, which has brought about several developments, good developments for the financial market. So indeed, a very exciting one for us all. We've been talking about derivatives in the markets for years now, but the signing of CAMA 2020 bill, of the CAMA bill into law, brings about the right legal and regulatory framework for us to operate a central counterparty and for us to provide derivatives from the market. So indeed, a very big deal for the market. And kudos to all who made this happen. I mentioned earlier the SEC on the back of this gave approval in principle for central counterparties in the market. Indeed, another milestone for the market because it's getting us closer to where we want in the development of a thriving derivatives market in Nigeria. In other areas of the market, we saw issuers tap the market, corporate issuers. And as we know, we have the federal government securities benchmarks, but we haven't had any credible benchmarks for corporate securities in the market. And this year, Fmdq, through 4 issuers and securities that were listed on exchange, we were able to develop a corporate securities benchmark covering 4 different sectors. We have one in the natural gas sector. We have the manufacturing sector, where we had the largest corporate bond. We have the telco sector, where we had the largest commercial paper listed on the exchange and in history. And we also had in the infrastructure market, where we saw up to bonds up to 7 years being issued in the market. So indeed, for the fixed income market, that has created some depth in that market because the corporate issuers now have benchmarks to look up to in when they want to issue and list their securities. And we've had over 55 commercial paper series quoted on FMDQ this year. And we've had 12 corporate and subnational bonds in the market as well. In the OTCFX futures market, as of October 2020, we've seen a total traded value of $51 billion, with $41 billion matured and cleared successfully on FMDQ Clear without any hitches. So again, that speaks to the credibility of the clearing and settlement part of the activities in the markets. Again, we saw the central bank extend the monthly contracts of the OTCFX futures from 12 months to 60 months. Again, another big deal because that has lengthened the curve in the market. And so now you have participants able to buy 5 years contracts as opposed to short-term contracts, which they had in the past. So those are some of the key things that have happened in the market in 2020 that have helped to propel the market to where we are today.
Yes, so when we talk about the markets, you talk about the corporate bonds, the government bonds, you talk about derivatives, whether they're commercial papers and others in the FX. I'm sure you're talking about a market-wide, the entire financial system, and including the industries. By the way, when you talk about manufacturers, those who are issuers of commercial papers in those sectors. So when you talk about this, when you say FMDQ has been able to achieve this, you're talking about participants. So that's why is it important, therefore, that these operators or market participants are recognized?
Okay, thank you. And I was just going to say that I wanted to take a step back to say, no, FMDQ didn't achieve all of these. The market achieved all of these. And that is indeed why we want to celebrate the market. That is why we want to recognize excellence in the fixed income, currencies, and derivative markets, because we have seen a lot of outstanding work happening in all of these sectors. We have seen participants go all out to make sure that the market was sustained during this period. We have seen innovations despite the tough circumstances this year. So we feel that it's more important, and it's very key for us to recognize all the market participants, from FMDQ members to other participants in the market, issuers, regulators. We just want to say thank you to everyone who has made the market what it is today. And as you're aware, we have had 2 Gold Awards events before 2020. So we launched the Gold Awards in 2018 when FMDQ turned 5. And we thought at that point that it was very important for us to say thank you and to recognize all the people, all the participants who had made FMDQ.
I want us to spend the final 30 seconds to talk about the rest of the 2020.
Rest of the 2020, we're going to spend the rest of 2020 pretty much putting things in place to make sure that all the things that we started at the beginning of the year come to fruition. So the derivatives markets, now that we have the derivatives rules from the SEC, we have FMDQ Clear as the CCP with the approval in principle from the SEC. We have the FCC rules on central counterparty, CAMA 2020, ready to support the market. We want to take the market to the next level in terms of creating a thriving derivatives markets.
Yeah, KAODI UGOJI, thank you so much. Of course, gold has been it's been a golden year, by the way, almost about $2,000 per ounce. Thank you so much for coming on the program.